Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, what's going on? What do you have on tap? What's going on? What are you going to talk about tonight?
Okay, well, tonight is something that hey, it's a something that has the right timing in order for it to have the most relevance to talk about this subject because hey, not only is it a manga, but it's also a manga that has its anime adaptation currently airing on Netflix right now. It's like after it started back in early October. I'm talking about Orb on the Movements of the Earth. Now, this is a series that comes from the famed Studio Madhouse, and it's also one of two series that they premiered this fall season. The other being Trillion Game. And to give you an idea about how I feel about both of these series, um, I'm watching both of them, but with Steve, and Steve and I and another friend of ours are just like constantly each week tearing the shit out of Trillion Game because it's just ridiculous. It's like and just has no bearing in reality, or at least no bearing in reality that we want to believe in. And the animation is not terrible, but it's like I don't think anyone working on it is gonna say, hey, this is Madhouse's finest hour here. Orb, on the other hand, well, you look at it and you can tell that hey, this is the series that Madhouse put their A team on for this season because it's just has a much more solid artistic look to it. It's like, and until the day, people were actually invested in making sure that parts of the series shined as well as it's as well as they possibly could. And and that's good because this is not the kind of series that that necessarily lends itself to an anime adaptation. In fact, honestly, kind of surprised that it did get it's like this kind of treatment, both from Studio Madhouse and also premiering on Netflix, because this is a series all about the theory of heliocentrism. Now I hear you say that it's like, wait, Jason, we already know that the Earth revolves around the sun. You're telling me that there's a series dedicated to talking about it. What's the point here? I mean, it's a series that's all about promoting a theory that we all know to be true. So what? Why should we care about it? And yeah, it's like I kind of the same feeling, reading this the first omnibus and thinking that hey, well, are we getting a fictionalized version of this, or is this gonna be the kind of thing where at the very end, it's revealed that and then their research fell into Galileo's hands, and he was able to determine that hey, the Earth does revolve around the sun. The end. Well, thankfully, I can tell you that its connections to the actual history of the heliocentrism aren't that obvious, in the course of its run. And at the end, they tend any connection the series has to actual scientific history is really kind of obscure if relevant at all. Really, it's like this is a series that just basically asks what is the point of of scientific research? What is the point of pursuing like you know the researching an idea that may run counter to everything that people know to be right at the time, and that the established order, in this case the church, it's basically saying that hey, this is dangerous, if not heretical, to our beliefs. Why do you pursue this kind of knowledge? And in the end, it's Orb says that the pursuit of truth is is worthwhile. It's regardless of what the cost may be, even if the message does kind of get a little like maybe slightly confused at its very final chapters, reasons I'll get into in a bit. But talk about the manga itself. This is an 8-volume series. Released in 4 2-in-1 omnibuy from Seven Seas. Now, if you know that the main reason people companies release manga in 2-in-1 omnibuy or in any kind of omnibus form first is because they don't expect it to sell. And so God bless seriously, I guess. Seven Seas for release finding a way to release this series, all 8 volumes of this series, like in this format. And the series itself is basically like a story told in 3 different acts. Takes place first. First act takes place in the early 1400s in the Kingdom of Poland. It's not specifically stated as Poland, but it's basically revealed to be like that later on. And it's about a kid named Rafal who he was a golden boy at his school, and he believed, and it seems that everything is going his way to the point where he's going to be leaving to study like theology at the university, and he's just like thrilled and like just not a little bit arrogant about this. But then one day, like his adopted father Potoki tells him like, "Hey, I need you to like go and like welcome this former heretic back into our household because he's been released, and it's like, and I'm trying to like help him with his like acclimation back into society." And while Fall is like more is it says like, "Oh, fine, I'll do this," but and while the this heretic Hubert, the former heretic, I would say, like he's fine with help. He with like initially meeting with Rafal, it's like he eventually reveals to him that he has no intention of repenting his beliefs, which is that the Earth revolves around the sun, not like the other way around, which is basically established doctrine at the time. And eventually, it's like like Rafal, after meeting with him like one night, like eventually like realizes that hey, like maybe this guy is onto something as he starts researching it on his own terms. This is kind of a problem because well, there's a inquisitor at the time, a guy by the name of Nowak, a former mercenary who fell in with the church and is now helping them root out like heretical beliefs. And he's more than happy to just like go ahead and do this, but he's just really blasé about this. Just hey, it's like, so you believe this is what you believe, huh? Well, let me see if this is like ripping out a few like thumbnails will it's like will change your mind about that. It's like, and Nowak is like he's just really blasé about this for the most part. Just kind of like he was willing. Like he's got a job to do, and he's gonna like go ahead and do it, and then go home to be a proper husband to his wife and his daughter Jolenta. And it's like this, it's like Rafal like you mentioned is like discovering this newfound knowledge against the consequences it represents. It informs the manga's first act. Second act takes place about 10 years later, involving a like a mercenary, it's like a stand-in duelist, by the name of Oxy, who it's like who was like who's just like kind of like very very humble about his like his stance in life, and just believes that hey, we're just pitiful humans like struggling for God's grace at the bottom of the universe, because like because everything revolves around us, everything falls down. It's like down towards like this place where that is at the center of the universe. Shit rolls downhill, in other words. And he's like like petrified by this thought. But when one day his stargazing comrade at arms like has a revelation that shocks him to his core. Like they wind up escorting this heretic who is like who entrusts them with like his knowledge, and like says that hey, this is like, I believe that you guys can like find a way to like bring this theory to light. And it's more so about heliocentrism. And coincidentally, one of the people like who's helping the escort this heretic to like to his destination is Nowak, because Nowak is like the one constant throughout these acts, and he's 10 years later he's still just as blasé and just hey, let's go ahead and get this stuff over with, as he originally was 10 years ago when he was dealing with Rafal. And eventually like Ossi's discovery of this knowledge leads him to like cope with this monk named Badeni, someone who's a very, very intelligent man who like who is like constantly chafes at the restrictions put on his knowledge by his members of the cloth, and he's also just like frustrated with the fact that like that like heretical knowledge is also like denied to him as well, and it was his desire to like study this stuff that literally led to his eyes being like partially blinded by wax that was dripped into them as a form of punishment. But when Otzi like crosses his path and tells him about this proof of knowledge that he's helped uncover, but then he finally sees a way to like finally like unleash his knowledge and like fearsome intellect like on the world in a way that's going to make him make him be remembered, and possibly just like change the course of history as a result. This is the longest arc of the series, taking up four whole volumes, and just it's like and just like showing you just like how these guys are just going to hopefully try and change history, but also like the various like connections and compromises they need to make along the way, because they can't do it on their own. They need to find actual people who have actual knowledge they can use in order to like test this theory and find ways to prove it. This leads them to hooking up with this one girl working at a at a university. It's not a university. It's basically like a house of study. I can't remember the proper name for it. And like, and this girl Jolenta, if you remember, it's like, hey, that's the name of Noah's daughter. This will be important later on. And like she has connections to one Count Piast, who a person who is like dedicated to proving the geocentric model of the heavens, but he just can't get it to work because like as much as he tries to prove this, like there's always some error being held, like holding it back. So as the series goes on, like one of the things that Otzi and Benedict do is like prove to this guy that maybe that his assumption is wrong, but at the same time though, it's not like that he was like spent his life researching this. It was not like made an error, because that's another thing the series is smart about too, and just like like massaging the it's like the egos of like of people in order to like get them to see things your way. It's like it doesn't say like hey, you can just like present the truth. It's like, and just have them accept it. These are people who, like humans with their own emotions and biases, and they need to be massaged as well. And the series shows how they need how they go about doing this, and as well as just like how knowledge is preserved from one like generation to another. It's like, well, there's a big little stone chest in the first couple arcs. The way it's preserved from the second to third arc, well, it's just a little bit silly, I will say, and probably like the one thing that like it's probably more like you gotta like accept it on its own terms. One of the guys I'm watching the series with managed to call it out. It's like after it's like what like before it was revealed in the latest episode that we're watching. He said like hey, I remember seeing this in Cutthroat Island, and yep, that turned out to be the case about how it's preserved. So if you've seen Cutthroat Island, you'll know how this is going, how knowledge is preserved from one generation to the next here. If not, well, you may be able to guess, just because like what happens is like a very limited like means of like how this knowledge could be preserved. But when it comes to like the passage of time from the second to third act, now we're going 25 years in the future, and it introduces us to Draxa. It's like a girl who it's like a girl in a nomad tribe who is like all about helping like like her tribe become more self-sufficient, like in like in its means, but at the end like the like she butts heads with his leader in the sense that like he like he says we have enough, like to try and like get more would just be like greed, and like we don't want to like to endorse that. So she's kind of frustrated about helping to preserve her tribe because she sees that money is like the means by which it's meant to be done. And she came to this by talking with her uncle, who is kind of like a no ne'er do well. It's like in the sense that it's like he's got some ideas about how to help people out, but he's also all about helping himself out as well. But at the same time, though, we're also introduced to these other this other group of mercenaries, a heretic liberation front, if you will, who are basically combating the church's suppression of knowledge. It's like in a time when we're told that the church's power is being is waning as well, and they get their hands on this bit of knowledge that survived from Otzi and Bedeni's time, and they're set about trying to find a way to to make it available to everyone in order not just further weaken the church's power, but also to just get this bit of truth out in front of everyone. And it's in this manner that their paths wind up crossing with Droxa's, because she winds up getting her hands on this knowledge and becoming the sole person with access to it. So like at the end of volume Omnibus Volume 3, which is where I left off in writing the reviews, we find out that Jolenta survived from the end of the end of her time, and is now leading this heretic liberation front. So this brings us to hey, does the fourth omnibus give us a proper end of the series, one that we can be proud of, so happy with? Oh, I think it does, even though I'm still wrapping my head around its very final arc. Sorry, not the third act, but basically the epilogue. So the third act, I think if anything, it kind of suffers a bit from the fact that a lot of characters just change their minds about stuff like Droxa kind of comes around to Jolenta's way of thinking kind of quickly, as does and Schmidt, the mercenary head who initially butts heads with Droxa. Eventually, also ends up believing in her in her plan of action to preserve this knowledge as well rather quickly. I wouldn't say it's there's at least enough explanation handled delivered in order to make this at least understandable, but I still think that it just kind of feels a lot of these decisions are made in order to serve the serve the story rather than the characters themselves. And but that being said, I do like how the how the story progresses, and I liked how Droxa managed to convince the bishop about hey, this theory is worth popularizing, because hey, the theory of heliocentrism isn't necessarily heretical outside in other parts of the world, and that hey, it's possible that presenting it as a fun little theory and just not the absolute truth of the world, but just a theory that people can consider. Hey, it may be a way to make people money as well. It's and I like how she managed to get the bishop on her side. It's but by doing this, because like I said, the series is all about understanding what it does, what it takes in order for people to massage their egos in order to get them to come around to your way of thinking. And of course, however, Nowak also figures into this arc as well, but due to events at the end of the second act, he is a very bitter old drunk now, but still has it in for heliocentrism, because he believes it's taken away everything that he believed in, and he's convinced to do it here. And it's and seeing how things turn out for him at the very end, I really like this. In fact, charting Nowak's personality and and obsessions over the course of these three acts is the argue like the series like strongest character. It is the series' strongest character arc because no one else gets this same level of like development. And I do like the fact that his final like deathbed conversation with his hallucination basically kind of like has him comes to like a realization about his role in the story, like in the overall story itself. That's handled very well. And even though it's like it affords him his own moment of grace at the end of the story, anyone worried about like, oh well, you're letting this guy too easy off, like as a result of like all the bad stuff he's done over the course of this series. Well, considering like how he took care of like so many heretics over the course of the series, the way he ultimately meets his maker at the end is very appropriate, considering all that in the end. And and in the end though, it's like well, it's like this like the some people like might wonder about when we get to the end of the third act and like what happens to all this knowledge that was accumulated over all this time. You wonder like, well, wait a second, like is this the real end for this? Like what was the point of these people struggling after all this time? And I can understand that, but I feel that like the series the series answer for this is that this people are struggling for their for their own benefit, for the sake of their own convictions. And even if now this knowledge was not exactly preserved, it's like they were at least able to like find meaning in their own pursuit of it. So it wasn't pointless. It still had meaning, even if it was like only for their own individual character struggles. And I like that. So so one hand, like the three act struggle of Orb does reach a satisfying conclusion in my eyes, at least. Then you get to the like 3-chapter epilogue involving a baker named Albert, who is given the chance to go to university, and he, for reasons initially unspecified, he says no because the pursuit of knowledge is dangerous, and I don't want to have any part of it. And through his conversations with the priest in the what could be one of the first instances of confession ever, we find out just how that is. And weirdly, it's like how it actually connects to someone from the series, earliest parts, in a way that makes no sense if like based on what we've seen earlier. So it's kind of like, okay, what's going on here? It's like, is mangaka Uoto just asking us to show, hey, it's like this is like a I'm just doing some magical realism stuff here. So in order to have this character come back and inform the like the dialogue here, which on one hand it is kind of interesting in the sense that this character is being asked to like show that hey, it's like the pursuit of knowledge is greater than death, be it their death or other people's death, against like those who like don't want to like like share in pursuit of knowledge, and should their wishes be respected like as well. I'm still kind of like chewing over this, and I'm kind of interested to see like what the response is going to be once this eventually airs what I think is going to be the final episode of the series. But I kind of get the feeling that Uoto is just trying to use this to maybe interrogate his it's like his use of the character and their beliefs in death. It's like like from the beginning of the series, as if he's just trying to like find a way to just like maybe like reconcile some of like what happened to the character versus what the character could have gone on to become. So that's interesting. And in the end, though, it's like this Albert guy turns out to be an actual real person, someone who did go on to influence the heliocentric theory because he apparently eventually wound up becoming a head of a university, and whose teachings went on to influence Copernicus. So that's interesting. That's nice. And like I said, there's no bit about like, oh, their knowledge found their way into his hands to influence him. But there is like a teeny tiny bit of that, but not in a way that just like suggests that it was that it was like this one big thing that happened. So yeah, it's like I really did enjoy this series, even though it's like I will say that its art is it's rough throughout a lot of this. I mean, I think like the character designs are solid, and like there's some like and there's like enough detail in like a lot of the stargazing scenes to make it worthwhile, and in some of the townscapes as well. But this is like a series that in the end was acknowledged as being written and illustrated by one guy and one assistant. And I'm not gonna lie, it shows. But at the same time, though, I think that this is a case where this is like a story that the creator believed in strongly enough that he wanted to tell. And I think that the writing and like the writing, both in terms of like the plot and the characterization, is strong enough to basically like overlook like the fact that this doesn't look as good as a lot of other like manga I've read like in recent years, to the point where I'd say that having Madhouse work on this, you tell that it's been given a significant glow up in terms of like the character designs and just the overall artistry. I mean, hey, a lot of like all of the scenes in the anime have backgrounds. That's saying something right there. But overall, I did enjoy this series. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to put this on the best of the year list, but really, it's like if you've been enjoying the anime, it's like I definitely recommend you go and check this out. Well, more or less because this is I wouldn't say that like the anime has done anything really drastically different, except for the fact that it's given that glow up. So that's nice right there. So hey, read the manga, watch the anime, and you'll be getting a good solid story, whichever like decision you make right there. So I'm doing both, and I enjoyed it.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, do you know what you're going to be talking about next time, sir?
Well, it's like as I implied at the end there, it's like it's almost it's like it's past time now. It's like I should have done this sooner, but hey, it's time for the best of 2024 list, and thank God it's at least going to have a something that's a lot easier to pick as my best of this year for 2024. And if you're wondering, well, what is that, Jason? Then you clearly haven't been listening to the podcast, because it should be pretty obvious at this point. So, but hey, tune in 2 weeks to find out just what it is, or just what the other nine spots on the list will be.
Stay in suspense. All right. And we'll talk to you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
All right, later, everyone.